Welcome back to another Conversations with the Media Prince. And just like any other episode, I have a dynamic guest. And this guy, resume is resumeing, okay? I mean, visionary, philanthropist, actor, songwriter, musician, MC, business owner, serial entrepreneur, curator, culture pusher, culture shaper. I mean, this man, what does he not do? And we're going to learn all of that and more today. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. Wes Felton.
Yo, man.
How are you, man?
I'm great, man. It's good. I'm glad we get the chance to finally sit down. I even made sure I wore some shades so that way I can, I don't normally do interviews with glasses on, but I knew I was sitting down with the media prince. I would say, yo, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put some shades on.
Well, they're cool just like you, man. And just like I was just going over everything you do here, you're just like a rare specimen where we just get to only experience you once in so many different realms and avenues.
Yeah.
And you continue to redefine yourself, try new things, and open yourself and gain even more audiences.
Yeah.
But take us all the way back before the guy that we know today. When did your eye for creativity in the art world just begin?
Well, I'm actually a legacy artist. My father was a jazz musician named Hilton Felton. He was original organist and keyboardist for the Soul Searchers. So a lot of those, famous classic records of the Soul Searchers that a lot of people sampled, and from Nelly's Hot in Here to Ashley's Roach Clip, which was one of the most sampled songs ever. Before they were Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers, they were the Soul Searchers. And my dad, who had moved here at a very early age from Norfolk, Virginia, with my mother, he was a member of that group. So my very first introduction to art was by way of my dad. I was fortunate enough where I was not only able to witness the creative process, but I was able to witness the business, the ups and downs, the real reality that comes with, beyond the perception of art. So that was my introduction. And ironically, I decided that I didn't necessarily want to be a musician, a piano player like him. I was more into the performance aspect of it, So in elementary school growing up, I was always the host of the talent shows. Or I was, I was doing the one-man shows or the poems or the guy freestyling, And as time went on, man, BET got word of me, and they reached out to me to come in to be a member of Teen Summit, which was a very popular show at that time when I was growing up. They had, it was basically like the Black Mickey Mouse Club. So you had all these kids from the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. This was before it was the DMV. But we were on there talking about social issues. I was always very highly opinionated. I started getting a lot of fan mail. So then the producers wanted to have me on there consistently. And, it was basically like going to like grad school for the, entertainment industry as a teenager. So I learned how to do the teleprompter. I learned how to really produce things. Learned how the perception of what we think we may look like is often different from how we look on camera. And so, just having those type of awareness. And then speed up, man, I ended up going to study theater and acting at Carnegie Mellon University. Wow. Because I was really into the academic aspect of the art. Just like a lot of cats in D.C., I grew up over on 58th, so I was from the hood. A lot of times they tell you only one type of person come from the hood.
Speak.
And so there are a lot of experiences. I was fortunate enough that I grew up in a time where all the street dudes and the hustlers, if you identified very upfront that you were a leader, or you were an originator, or you had your own, basically you weren't a follower, the street dudes would leave you alone. They wouldn't put that pressure or that peer pressure because I was very clear. So, the combination of that personality type, plus me being on Teen Summit. Because, you know, it's a lot of things niggas don't have in the hood, but
Right.
back in the day, one thing they did have was cable in their crib. You know what I'm saying? So they were seeing me Saturday mornings on, you know, in front of the world. So I couldn't not be myself, because every time I leave BET Studios, I had to come back over to 58th. So, and if I wasn't keeping it real, they would check me on that.
Right. How does it feel to know that you're a part of that art world here? Like, you're cemented in the art culture. How does that feel, being from here and being able to create and curate what I now get to experience as the art world here?
It's a love-hate thing sometimes, because DC has a really bad habit of not fully embracing individuals like me in real time.
Right.
You know, unfortunately, we live in DC, and, you know, everyone's always talking about Marvin Gaye and Duke Ellington and all that. But the reality of it, when those brothers were here creating and making things in real time, they weren't necessarily the most popular people,
right,
or necessarily the people who the community really got behind.
Right.
It wasn't until Marvin branched out and went to Detroit and overseas, and it wasn't until Duke Ellington ultimately went to Harlem,
right,
and then got accepted in Hollywood and things like that, that the city really kind of started really claiming. But sadly to say, ultimately it wasn't until their deaths,
right,
that the city kind of acknowledged that. So it's a love-hate. So that's the hate part of it, because I've always wanted to break that cycle. I've always wanted to remind people that, hey, we're here.
Yeah.
You know, we're still amongst y'all, and it's important that you guys take advantage. Now, the love part of it is, I see daily, all the time, certain concepts or certain creative ideas that I know, you know, maybe I was the first person to kind of bear that cross for certain people to choose to try to create. You know, because DC wasn't a place where cats were rapping when I was growing up. You know,
right,
if you was rapping and I was growing up, I was like, oh, you with that New York Bama shit. Or, you know what I'm saying? So that's the love part of it. But also, you know, as time's gone on, the world has acknowledged me as a DC native artist.
Yeah.
A true DC native artist who has not only just influenced this community, but influenced the creative community globally.
Yeah. Well, that's why I had to have you here.
Yeah.
Because I know how important it is to be from an area where we have a Wes Felton. Like, that doesn't go unacknowledged. For me, I just feel like the giants like you should always get your flowers at all circumstances. So that's why I'm glad I have a platform like this where
absolutely,
I can really salute the ones that came before us, because we're going to eventually be getting the torch passed to us, and then we're going to have to pass it to someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm taking it back to when I first was able. Well, I had already knew who you were way before then, but I was really giddy that I got to interview you during DC Music Summit.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I got a taste for, like, he's just as cool as I. Well, because, you know, you meet some of these cats and you hope they cool, and then you meet them and interview them, and you realize, these are some stale blankets.
Right,
But no, it was exciting to know that you are exactly who we perceive you to be through your image, and it's dope. And it's dope to actually know how in tune you are with the community. Like, you have your hands in literally everything. So now, as a creative like myself who's wondering, you know, and hoping to do things like you do, what is your sleeping schedule like? Do you get sleep?
Well, I'm going to tell you the secret. The secret is, I had a Rastafarian teach me some time ago that one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself as an individual. People gonna give you all types of things in life. You might get accolades, you might get certain superficial rewards, but the greatest gift that you can give yourself is rest. You know, and what I mean by that, it doesn't even have to be like 8 hours straight. But what I'm saying is, at some point of the day, in the middle of the day, give yourself the gift of taking a break. So often in life, it's easy, especially if you're a hyper creative person like me, it's very easy to fall into the trap of the expectation of never turning off. And that's not my self expectation. That's an expectation that often gets projected on us.
Right.
Because people assume that if you're multi-talented or have your hands in a lot of things, that you're required to constantly stay up. But the goal is to be able to find ways to make money while you're resting. Most of the most successful people in this world make most of their money while they sleep, not while they're actually acting. People got to understand that leveling up or getting your money is not necessarily selling out. Selling out is when you compromise your integrity. When you completely do the complete opposite of what you say you're going to do or what you do, and you act like you didn't do it. You understand? And so for artists like myself, the pressure of maintaining integrity, at first, that was often, I used to feel guilty, I used to feel bad sometimes, like, man, maybe I should do this, or maybe I should sign this, or maybe I should. But in the long run of it,
right,
I'm okay with it, to where, I don't feel that pressure anymore. But, I'm a father, I have a son, he's 21, he's been living on his own in New York since he was 17, he's a model, he's done, Fashion Week, New York, Paris, multiple times in his life so far.
So this is a family right here.
Yeah, so he also does music. That's where the pressure comes in on me, because legacy is a choice. And I just, the main pressure I always feel is worrying about him not choosing legacy versus him just trying to make his own name. Because that's unfortunately in our community, when I say our community, I'm talking about black folks, people of color. What we fail to understand often is the closest thing we will have most of the time to generational wealth is a legacy. And what that means is, if your great-grandfather opened a barbershop, and then your grandfather, who was his child, came and started cutting hair in there too, and then the great-grandfather passed away, so then the grandfather still has it, and then your father or mother chose to keep the business. It's a choice, because unfortunately for us as a community, we've been conditioned to throw away our elderly and the people who came before us. It's always about the next hot thing or the next popping thing or whatever, and unfortunately that's one of those things that it's one of the greatest tricks that the white man ever pulled on us. The idea that only the new us are the ones that are valuable.
How did your dad take that?
Well, my dad, rest in peace. He passed away.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. He passed away 2007. That also changed me, because we all think we got time. We all think everybody's your people's gonna be here, and for him, he was like the only dude that really understood my journey, the idea that I chose to be an artist. But the beauty of it, he got to see me off Broadway. He got to see me star in a film on BET. He got to see me on TV. He got to open the newspaper and see articles about me. He got to be at his own gigs, and people coming in and be like, "Hey man, I just saw your son play at the 930 Club. I didn't realize that was your son." So those things, to where he let me know, definitely before he left this round, that he was cool, he was proud, and he was happy to know that the legacy was intact. And that's why, out of his 3 kids, I'm the one who handles his estate. So, I've been blessed to where, I place a lot of his music in films and commercials, and I do reissues of his stuff with, companies from Japan and London and, things like that. Yeah, so it's one of those things where I got to just always make sure I don't let other people's desires of me dictate and control the choices I make. You know,
That's a message,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yo.
Okay. Now, where did your father get his skills, his talents from? Was somebody before him?
Well, my dad was one of those like prodigy kids, man. He was one of those kids that like, so his father was a preacher down in Norfolk, Virginia, had a big church down there. And my dad, by the age of 3, he was playing the organ for his father's service on Sundays.
Whoa.
A 3-year-old. Okay? Then you speed up, by 17, he was a freshman at Howard University studying music and simultaneously the music teacher at Dunbar.
Wow.
So you know, so he you know, sometimes it's kind of one of those things where there's some people who kind of learn things, or they see somebody else do something and they say, "Hey man, I want to do that," right? Versus some who are born to do it. And you know, my dad was one of those people who was always born to do it, and he was able to make a really great name for himself, while again also building content and art and things that, you know, in the long term, his kids could use. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're part of his genetic makeup, so
Yeah.
clearly you were born to do this as well.
Yeah.
And you've been able to do so much. What would you say of all the things that you've done thus far? What are your like most remarkable moments that you were just like, damn, wow, I'm here?
Well, I will say, whenever, so like, first time we went to, Raheem and I went to London together. This is before people were like getting on planes and flying out overseas and things, right? And to get over there and to have that community not just embrace Raheem and I as indie, and this is before Raheem signed, you know, a major deal, or he was the Raheem Devon that most people know now. Mm-hmm. To go there and off the strength of, you know, his father was a jazz cellist,
Wow.
Abdul Waou, yeah, like who's like pretty, like my dad got these like very rare albums that are like very sought after, right? To get over there to do shows and then get the certain special treatment because of who our fathers and who they were. So that was like the first sign for me. And we're talking about, you know, this is like 1999, 2000. You know what I'm saying? This is like before 9/11. Like we're over there doing this, and then you speed up, and when we went to Tokyo for the first time,
Wow.
it did you know, 8 sold out shows there. We're there, and to walk into like a music store, and you see your face and your CDs amongst Beyonce and whoever the Destiny's Child at that time, or whoever, you understand, and see that you're being appreciated and respected, and then you see that, and then you go to the venue early because all these magazines want to sit down with you and do interviews about you, and when they're talking to you, they're not connecting you to necessarily maybe what's popular at that time, but they pick up from like they include you in the legacy of Trouble Funk, EU, Rare Essence, you know, the artists that they consider that create a certain sound that comes from the city, and it's not necessarily just go-go,
Right.
but you know, subject matter, you know, talking about things. So you know, it's those are definitely the super highlights. You know, 2007, I won the Heineken Independent Artist of the Year award.
Wow.
Which was great. You know, I'm not really been a big fan of chasing awards, but that was definitely a great confirmation for me back then. And then again, you know, as I mentioned to you earlier, you know, I've been working with the education board and team at Forge Theater for 10 years. Ain't no brothers over there that's been working with that company for 10 years.
Say that again.
Especially brothers like me.
Right.
You know, where they don't ask me to code switch. They don't ask me to like change who I am. And that for me has been the ultimate highlight for me up to this point, that, you know, year after year I work with them and I'm able to, you know, they trust me going into classrooms and, you know, teaching kids and, you know, giving them that. And then to speed up now where I've had kids who, you know, started off in 4th grade, you know, what I'm working with them who are now in college. And
Right.
they send me messages on Instagram like, yo, man, because of you, you built that courage in me, or that thing, you know.
Yeah.
That to me is the most rewarding thing, is when people can come to you and say how you really impacted them.
And I told you,
It's valuable.
You've impacted us all. And you just mentioned Raheem Devon. You guys are a duo together.
Yeah.
As well.
So
how did you guys meet, and how did you guys come up with Crossroads?
so Raheem and I, we probably met in like 1999, and around that time I had just kind of came back to DC from Pittsburgh, where I was in school, and U Street had this kind of renaissance going on. There's a lot of venues like State of the Union, Bar None, the Kaffa House, Bohemian Caverns. They were having this resurgence of like how things back in the day were, when, like, you know, Duke Ellington and certain other artists used to gig a lot up and down that street.
Gotcha.
And so I immediately came back and just dove head into that, and I wanted to really impact it. So a couple of buddies of mine, a guy named Tone Walters and a guy named Brent Munch, Brent Joseph, Munch is his nickname. We started a event called Groove Gumbo. And what we wanted to do was, we got tired of like going to open mics and seeing like artists that were clearly better than others, but they were limited to whatever that amount of time of that open mic was.
Gotcha.
So we were like, we're going to make an event that's going to feature the people who we think are like the standouts at these open mics. But not only are we going to feature them, but we're going to get national and international acts to be the headliners of these shows, but basically place these very independent local artists as the openers, quote unquote, for that. And so we started doing those events. There's a young lady named Jill Scott, who everybody knows now. We got her to come down, Jilly from Philly. This is when she was just, you know, right before she got her deal with Hidden Beach, and was doing the campaign of Who's Jill Scott. We brought her down, and with some of the local artists here. Dwayne Wiggins, rest in peace. You know, at that time from Tony. He was branching out, doing his own solo stuff as well. A group called Fertile Ground that was from Baltimore. That was just this epic band. You know, so groups like that. I'm always a fan of kind of like believing that like what Raheem and I do is very different. You know, and people always say it. They be like, yo, you know, I've seen you perform and I've seen Raheem perform, but it's just when y'all together, it's like it's something else.
You can't explain it. It's like that,
you know.
Je ne sais quoi. You're just like,
Yeah,
dang.
yeah. So it's a blessing. I'm also fortunate enough where I've been able to be a confidant and a counselor for him as well, as he navigates the industry, because he knows when he comes to me with something, he knows I'm not going to just fall in line. If I see the threat, or if I see the potential issue, he knows I'm going to always articulate that to him for him to be able to work through it, and vice versa.
How long did it take you to get those, like when you can see those red flags in the industry? How quick were you to pick those up early on, would you say?
It's hard. Probably my early 20s, just, you know, and then speed up, you know, probably around 27, I signed a distribution deal with a company, and the company they brought nothing to the table. They had this national distribution, but the person who was in charge of it had no numbers to call, had no, you know, and it was like, I'm making this record for you, and I got Eric Roberson on this record, I got Natalie from Flowetry on this record. I got, all these different people that you should be like excited, like, yo, let me pump this record. And they basically wanted me to somehow just hand over all of my contacts and my network, and pay for my own tours and pay for all these things. And so that right there was like the final red flag for me.
Got you.
To where I decided, look, moving forward, I'm not going to ever fall for the hype of signing a deal, even if it's something as basic as a distribution deal, because the business of art is not made for artists. It's made for business people. It's not made for artists. It's not created to benefit the artists. And so as many ways as they can repackage that concept or figure out a new way to try to push, hey, get with this. Yeah. It's still you're gonna always end up coming around to the same thing. So
I got you.
My own mistakes are ultimately the red flags that I've learned. But again, some of the obvious ones that, let's say, if someone who's watching, is that you got to be very careful what you sign in this business. You got to be very careful, anything that could compromise the ownership. Because there's clauses, a lot of people don't know this. There's clauses in some of these contracts these artists sign that say ownership of your thoughts.
Damn.
So that means, like, if any of us in this room, we vibe with each other, we maybe afterwards we hitting a J or something or whatever, or eating or whatever, and we like, yo man, let's get together and like let's do something, like let's shoot a video or let's do like a little EP. You can't even do that without running it by somebody, and then you gotta hope that they then give you permission. That's why back in the day on records, when you look on the album covers and you see people that were guest artists that might be featured, at the bottom on the credits, it would say, Mary J. Blige appears courtesy of Bad Boy or Motown. So-and-so, courtesy of, you understand? Because when you sign when you sign certain deals, and most people, because they know you an artist, you've been trying to get on forever, you get this money all of a sudden, they know the average person, especially a person from the ghetto, they're gonna be like, yo, this is my way out. Finally, I'm gonna sign this, and they often don't take the time to get a lawyer to really look over that paperwork, and unfortunately, it has those little small prints in there a lot of times, and you end up signing your thing. And so a lot of times people think artists are changing their names because they're being cool. But no, they're changing their names because they're trying to work around somebody who owns their name, owns their image, owns that. You understand?
I get it.
And Prince was the first person to publicly
that probably makes sense why you see certain artists do
yeah.
that.
Oh, that I'm telling you, that is the only reason.
Wow.
When you see some of these groups come back for that reunion tour from out of nowhere that nobody asked for, it's because a company that they owe money to is knocking on that door like, yo, it's like student loans almost.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and this too, aside from music, you've been a part of a lot of my turn-ups. Please explain House Bar.
Oh yeah, so about 3 years ago, a couple of buddies of mine, they had this idea where they wanted to make a new experience when it comes to buying liquor. One of my best friends named Clyde Davis, he basically for years was the proprietor or owner of a variety of liquor brands. Not the ambassador, not the rep, but the actual owner of liquor companies, right? And if I was ever doing something...
Don't you guys just love the beautiful sound of...
This DC.
This is DC.
Yeah, fire. But basically, long story short, And so after years of them doing that, they built and developed relationships with, liquor companies and brands all over the world. Cats came up with this idea where we like, let's have a boutique liquor store that houses these independent small brands. The ones that the regular liquor stores won't necessarily give the opportunity because they don't have the mass distribution. But then we also want to try to give people a way to curate their drinking experience at home.
Yeah.
We as black folk, we the tastemakers. Whenever we make something hot, it becomes hot.
I will say this: that house bar makes the experience of shopping for liquor sexy.
Yeah,
like I'm telling you, it's an experience when you walk in. You don't feel like you're in a liquor store. You really feel like you're in an experience where you feel like you're in something innovative, like a new way of shopping for your spirit.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, thanks to him, summer 2024 was on lock because we were literally
That's
just in
good to
there,
hear.
and we'll probably be in there in a few days too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's great to see, and it's dope to your resume of you really have your hands and feet in everything. And so when I say you are cemented in culture, it's literally in every facet we can think of.
Yeah.
So
it's taste making.
Yeah,
it's being the true and real time idea of being a tastemaker. And we had the first location in Navy Yard, and now we have our second location open now in Georgetown.
Hey.
And we're in Georgetown in the neighborhood. So we're not like on the strip with all the stores. We're like in the actual community in the neighborhood.
Which is dope.
Yeah, and then soon, this year, we'll be opening one in the Union Market area.
Hey!
So, it's again, but the main point of the concept of it was that we want our people to not only elevate their drinking experience, because the stuff we carry, there's no additives in it. We try to stay away from additives. We try to be additive free. We try to only carry products that are produced by women, minorities, and small groups. So again, it's one of those things where our people have to often understand that, like, the things that often last the longest or are the most successful are concepts that you commit to and you stick to it without compromising the integrity of that brand or that idea simply because everybody else is not doing it.
Bam. I hope you guys took notes to that because that was the message right there.
Yeah.
Now, before I let you go, I've been dying to play my famous game with you called Either or.
Okay.
So, I give you some hip-hop legends.
Okay.
The person you say stays. The person you don't say never existed.
Okay.
Are you ready for the challenge?
I'm with that. Yeah.
You only get 3 Felton passes. After that, you must kill someone off.
Okay.
All right, we
Let's
ready?
go. Yes.
All right, Tupac or Biggie?
I'm picking who stays.
Yep.
Oh, Tupac.
Okay, Tupac stays, Biggie never existed. All right, Jay-Z or Nas?
I would say that's my first Felton pass.
Okay. Eminem or J. Cole?
Oh, definitely. I'm picking J. Cole.
J. Cole. Okay,
Yeah.
J. Cole stays.
Yeah.
Kendrick Lamar or Drake?
Now, this is interesting. I'm not necessarily, I think because of my age, I'm not necessarily a fan of either one of them.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to just say that, right?
Okay.
And I get into this debate with people or conversation with people all the time. And I'm sorry that I'm giving a disclaimer here. But whenever I talk to people, I always say that, although they have this battle or whatever, people pick sides, I always say Drake is a better artist because, not better artist, but I'll pick him because I've seen more women dancing and enjoying themselves too, besides they not like us, which is a phenomenon. I've gone all over the planet, and I've heard his music everywhere, all over the planet. And whenever it's being played, people aren't fighting or beefing with each other. It's like people are enjoying themselves. And you know, if I go out to a bar or a club, I'm not gonna lie. I want to see women in that joint. You know what I'm saying?
T.I. or Ludacris?
I gotta go with T.I. on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kanye West or Lil Wayne?
Oh man. I'm gonna go with Kanye because he is a very tortured soul, and you know, unfortunately, for some tortured souls, they don't have the confidence or strength to kill themselves, so they try to find ways to provoke other people to do it for them.
So let's do one last one.
Yeah.
Andre 3000 or Common?
Oh, Andre 3000 all day.
Hey.
You know, I like Common, but you know, sometimes Common is like, you know, his stuff is a little too much like a TED Talk sometimes for me. and I love conscious music and all that, but it's like, you know, if there was 5 Commons, I would like Common. You know what I mean? Because I think there's like a lot of other people who do what he can do, and maybe even a little better. But what Andre 3000 does, he's the only one. You can see you can constantly hear people trying it, but nobody has yet to, you know, because even that dude Tobe, what is his name? Tobe Ingwingwe?
Yeah, Toby.
Toby, that guy. When he first came out, people were saying, "Oh, this is good." Yeah, you know, he's filling that Andre 3000 void, you know. But as time went on, he even realized, like, I don't necessarily want that pressure, and he started to really kind of show that, oh no, this is my own flow. So I definitely Andre 3000.
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
he didn't have to use but one pass. He did
Yeah,
great. The one, the only, Wes Felton.
Yes.
Please let them know where they can follow you and where they can find you at.
I mean, you guys can catch me, find me on, you know, Instagram at Wes Felton DC. You know, yeah, just Wes Felton DC. As always, you can find me. Bandcamp, if you want to support my art directly, wesfelton .bandcamp.com. You know, and that's it, man. Just, you know, I just dropped a new tune called "A Nation with No Art is a Kingdom with No Soul," and this actually addresses the issue with MAGA taking over the Kennedy Center. So I encourage people to check it out. It's very solid piece. It's one that I'm very proud of. I just dropped it yesterday, and just the feedback of it has just been like off the chain. So.
Well, I'll have it plugged in the link below so you can download that.
Please,
I want to thank you so much for everything you do for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do for fellow media princes like myself who looked up to giants like you.
Thank you, man.
And it was an honor. And this was Conversations with the Media Prince. Shop at MOB. We are out.
Yeah, peace.